Hey guys, it's me Andrew, your favorite Canadian YouTuber, and today I'll be kicking off the new year by listing my top 20 games of 2024. That's right, 20. While this year's lineup of games might not be as overall incredible as last year's games, as I predicted in last year's top 10 video, but this year makes up for that with quantity. In fact, I played so many great games this year that I really want to talk about, it was impossible for me to narrow my top picks down to only 10 games. So I decided to take it a step further and double this year's list. Now before we begin, I'm sorry to disappoint many of you once again, but unfortunately I have not played Black Myth Wukong or Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so they won't be included on this list. Alright, now that I've let you all down, let's begin the countdown. Number 20, Princess Peach Showtime. It's been quite a while since Princess Peach got her own game, and this one is certainly an interesting deviation from the typical Mario games formula, as the theme mainly revolves around live theater drama and performance arts, and every level is based on a different genre. Princess Peach, being the main star of the show, takes center stage performing in a variety of different plays, from Shakespearean swordplay to kung fu performances and figure skating on ice, Wild West adventures, detective solving clues, baking cakes and cookies, underwater mermaid musicals, sci-fi superhero fighting aliens, the list goes on. This game certainly has a lot of variety, and the gameplay often changes with each show, so it's very unlikely you'll get bored playing it, that's for sure. Honestly, the only genre that's missing that I kinda wish was in the game is Action Movie Peach, where she's dressed in camo, wielding bazookas, hopping across buildings, blowing stuff up while yelling yippee-ki-yay motherfucker! While Showtime isn't the best game of the year, it's still fun for the most part, whether if you simply like Princess Peach or if you're a live theater drama nerd, I'd recommend checking it out. Number 19, Phantom Fury. This was one of my most anticipated games of the year, as it's a sequel to one of my all-time favorite FPS games, Ion Fury. I'll admit, I might have overhyped my expectations a bit too much. It's not quite as good as I hoped it would be, but at the same time, I don't think it's quite as bad as many people say it is. Don't get me wrong, this game isn't perfect by any means, especially the rough state it was in at launch, but despite all its flaws, Phantom Fury is still a pretty fun experience for the most part. Shelly Bombshell Harrison is just as badass as ever, and it's basically a homage to games like Half-Life and the original 2001 build of Duke Nukem Forever, not the 2011 game. And I'd say it did a pretty good job at capturing their signature styles. It's definitely not the best game this year, but I do think it's at least worth checking out if and whenever it goes on sale. Number 18, Penny's Big Breakaway. From the team behind Sonic Mania comes a very unique 3D platformer where you play as a street performer named Penny, who's constantly running from an army of angry penguins after her sentient yo-yo assaults an emperor during her performance, and it's just as ridiculous as it looks and sounds, but in the best way. It's a pretty fun and creative game as you navigate and traverse through levels by performing all kinds of crazy tricks with Penny's yo-yo, from ziplining to grappling hooking, riding on it like a unicycle, and just beating the crap out of penguins with a big-ass yo-yo, and more. If you're looking for a new 3D platformer that's different from most with its own uniquely fun feel, this might be what you're looking for. Number 17, PO'd Definitive Edition, an HD remaster of a mostly forgotten retro FPS game on the Panasonic 3DO. PO'd is one of the most bizarre boomer shooters you'll ever play. I've done a whole in-depth review on it if you'd like to learn more, so please go check it out if you haven't already. Number 16, I'm gonna do something a little different from previous year's lists by doing a double feature, 2 games in 1 slot. Happy Funland and Indigo Park. The reason why I'm featuring both these games in a single slot is because these two games are so similar in many ways that a lot of what I have to say about them can be said about both games. So if I put them in 2 separate slots, I'll just be repeating a lot of my same words twice. So you know what? Why not just kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Not to mention, one of them was more of a fraction of a game. So anyway, Happy Funland and Indigo Park are both amazing mascot horror games that take place in an old abandoned amusement park inspired by Disneyland. Explore the ruins of the park, experience fun, exhilarating rides, fight or run away from bloodthirsty theme park mascots, and more, all while the park's main mascot stalks you around every step of the journey, whether it's an adorable AI raccoon with a friendly demeanor or a nightmare-fuel rodent with more creepy behavior. Honestly, both these games are so well made, I can't decide which is better, though I will say that Happy Funland, being a VR game, definitely definitely gives it an immersion advantage. Not to mention it's a full game, whereas Indigo Park seems to have an episodic structure where the game comes out in separate chapters over time like Bendy and Poppy Playtime. But despite it only having one chapter so far, Indigo Park is still one of the most amazing and mascot horror games ever made in recent years. Chapter 1 is available for free on Steam, and Happy Funland is available on Steam, MetaQuest, and PlayStation VR 2. I just realized, if this is a top 20 list, but there's 2 games in this slot, wouldn't that make it
21?
Alright, moving on. Number 15, Silent Hill 2 Remake. When I heard this game was getting a full-on remake with some much-needed modernized enhancements while maintaining all of the best elements from the original, much like the amazing Resident Evil remakes, naturally, my interest was piqued. Honestly, I haven't played a whole lot of the original Silent Hill 2, but I'd say this remake is definitely quite an upgrade. It replaced the old janky tank controls and clunky combat with a fine-tuned modernized control scheme. That alone is a plus. And of course, the old mysterious town of Silent Hill is just as uncanny and terrifying as we all remember, if not even more so. I know there are some changes here and there that some people have mixed feelings on, but for the most part, Blooper Team did a surprisingly good job at faithfully recreating and capturing the spirit of the original. Definitely looking forward to the new movie as well. Besides, I think we can all at least agree that it's much better than that awful remaster in the so-called HD collection, which was unfortunately how I experienced the original. Glad to see the sign has no Comic Sans font this time. Anyway, while we join James on his quest to find his wife who sent him a letter despite being dead, and see his dark tragic past unfold before him, we meet some other interesting characters such as Maria, who strangely resembles James' late wife Mary, or perhaps the woman he wants her to be, and some say the embodiment of his sexual desires and frustrations. Now, if she wasn't already uncanny enough, Maria also shockingly reminds me of my ex-girlfriend, both appearance and personality-wise. I won't go into personal detail on that, but let's just say I really didn't expect to feel any kind of personal connection while playing this game. You know what, perhaps I've said too much. Number 14, Lollipop Chainsaw Repop. Hard to believe that we'd be seeing this game make a comeback in 2024, considering it's kind of an easy target for cancel culture nowadays. Alright, joking aside, this remaster of the Xbox 360 cult classic is just as over-the-top chaotic fun as the original in every way, if not even more so, and the quirky zombie-hunting cheerleader, Juliet Starling, is just as beautiful, badass, and lovable as ever. Honestly, it's almost impossible to sum it all up. If you never got a chance to experience the insane thrill ride of the original Lollipop Chainsaw, then this remaster is perfect for newcomers, and I highly recommend playing and experience it for yourself. I really hope this game gets a sequel someday, and if it does, I kinda want to see Juliet become a zombie, but still somehow maintain some humanity and remember who she is, while gaining some crazy new undead abilities as a result. No doubt that would be an interesting premise. Oh, and not to mention, Peach Milky should definitely be Juliet's face and body model, cause she brings Juliet to life the same way she did for Ashley Graham. Honestly, if there's one thing I'm sure we can all agree on, it's that they just don't make games like this anymore. Well, that is until earlier this year, but I'll get to that a bit later. Number 13, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Looks like Peach isn't the only iconic Nintendo princess who got her own standalone adventure this year. Honestly, it's been quite a while since we've gotten a new Zelda game that follows the traditional top-down Zelda formula, unless you count the Link's Awakening remake. For the past 2 or 3 decades, Zelda's been leaning more towards the fully 3D to open-world formulas for so long, I didn't think we'd ever see a classic top-down style Zelda game ever again. But here it is. While admittedly, I prefer the 3D open-world Zeldas like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but at the same time I still found this game quite enjoyable for the most part. Granted, it did take me a bit of time to get a hold of all the new mechanics and really get into it. It definitely has its learning curves, but once you've gotten all down, it's a really fun experience. Not only is this the first official game where you actually play as Zelda, CDI don't count, but she has her own unique abilities that really makes the whole game stand out from all the rest. Most notably, her echoes, which allow allows her to basically create clones or duplicates of any inanimate object or enemy she encounters after defeating them, and this echo duplication magic really adds a whole lot of variety and creative possibilities for you to experiment with while exploring the beautiful world of Hyrule and all of its memorable characters you'll meet along the way. I wouldn't call it the best game in the Zelda franchise, but it's certainly a unique one that offers something refreshingly different from the rest of the series, and it's definitely worth checking out. Number 12. Palworld! In a world full of mediocre Pokemon games that fail to satisfy longtime fans, and Nintendo refusing to put any actual effort into them, one indie game studio stood up to Nintendo and said, "If you won't make a good Pokemon game, we'll make one ourselves." And thus, Palworld was brought to life. Honestly, I'm not even a Pokemon fan and I enjoyed this game. Alright, now before all the toxic Pokemon stands start flooding the comments blindly bashing Palworld, calling it a shameless Pokemon ripoff and whatnot, I'll say this. Even if it is considered a ripoff, sometimes the ripoff is better than the original, and that couldn't be any more true here. However, I'd say Palworld is more of a parody of Pokemon. I mean, with names, designs, and descriptions like these, it's kinda hard to argue against that. Also, Palworld is just about everything that Pokemon has been accused of glorifying, like slavery and animal abuse, but Palworld just flat out does right in your face without bothering to sugarcoat it. Plus, being a survival game, you can even hunt and kill the pals for food and resources. Honestly, the way Palworld just relishes in how dark and messed up it all is with no shame is just hilarious. Now, on a different note, I'm surprised more people aren't comparing Palworld to Zelda Breath of the Wild, because the beautiful open world exploration definitely gives it that sort of vibe too. When Palworld arrived on PS5, my sister and I bought it immediately and had lots of fun playing it together. While the game isn't perfect by any means, Pocket Pair still did an amazing job with it. Whether if you're a Pokemon fan or not, I'd recommend trying it either way. Number 11, Sun and Bone. Or as I'd like to call it, Turok Eternal. If those two words in the gameplay footage aren't descriptive enough, well, what do you get when you combine elements of Turok, Doom Eternal, Serious Sam, and maybe a bit of Red Dead Redemption? You get one hell of an awesome prehistoric bloodbath. This game is essentially like a successor to the classic Turok series, and is pretty much the closest thing to a new Turok game we've gotten in over 16 years. Well, that is until Turok Origins comes out. In the meantime, Sun and Bone is a great alternative to satisfy your Turok cravings till then. Heck, the name Turok even means Son of Stone, and this game is named Sun and Bone. I'd hardly call that a coincidence. Now, this game isn't perfect by any means. It definitely has a lot of noticeable flaws, but I was willing to overlook them because of just how much fun this game is. Not to mention, much like Clive and Wrench, it was made by an extremely small team of only 2 brothers and on a way smaller budget than AAA studios. With that in mind, it's quite impressive what they were able to make here. The game looks surprisingly good and it controls quite smoothly. Once you get into the rhythm of running, gunning, and decapitating dinosaurs and other Turok-esque enemies, you'll be having quite a blast from the past in no time. Number 10, Gorry Cuddly Carnage. What do you get when you combine Lollipop Chainsaw with Devil May Cry and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater? You get one hell of a crazy game. I've done a whole in-depth review on this game, so please go check it out if you'd like to learn more. Number 9, Celico. Now this game has more of the Ion Fury-like feel I was hoping for in Phantom Fury. Celico is a retro-style FPS with a modern feel to it, and it blends both retro and modern FPS elements together perfectly. Just the style of this game is beyond visually stunning, and it's just as addictively fun to play as it looks. Not to mention the protagonist Dawn is badass enough to rival Shelly Bombshell Harrison from Ion Fury. Words cannot describe how impressive it is that this game was actually made on the Doom engine. With how amazing it looks and runs, and overall how insanely well made it is, you'd think it was made in something like maybe the Build, Unity, or Kex engine. But nope, GZ Doom. The devs went above and beyond and did the seemingly impossible, create one of the most ambitious and incredible FPS games ever made in recent years, using one of the oldest FPS game engines pushed to the max. To say this game is a testament to what the Doom engine is truly capable of would be an understatement. No doubt this game definitely deserved to win Indie Game of the Year at IndieDB, as it is hands down the best FPS game of 2024. Number 8, Anton Blast! If this style of gameplay looks familiar to you, it's almost as if the talented indie devs at Summosphere said, "Yo Nintendo, you haven't given us a new Wario Land game in like 16 years. If you ain't gonna make one, we'll do it ourselves." So in a way, it's kind of a similar case to Palworld. Alright, all joking aside, I think the gameplay footage you're seeing here speaks for itself in terms of just how over-the-top chaotic fun this game is. I can't even find the right words to describe it. Obviously, Wario Land being the main inspiration, but it also utilizes elements from other games like Crash Bandicoot, Sonic, Earthworm Jim, Shovel Knight, Cuphead, etc., and blends them all together in a surprisingly unique way, all topped off with a visually stunning retro Looney Tunes like coat of paint. The main character, Dynamite Anon, is kinda like a mix of Wario, Yosemite Sam, and Tasmanian Devil with quite a short temper to match. And his partner, Dynamite Annie, best I could sum her up is, imagine if Beavis and Jinx did the fusion dance and then B-Vinx put on the mask. Yeah, I think you get the picture here. The only thing more insane than the game's destructively wacky, chaotic characters is the game's plot, which is just so hilariously ridiculous and really adds to the game's overall charm. Honestly, my words aren't enough to do this game justice, nor sum up how insanely fun this game is. The only way to know for sure is to try Anton Blast and experience it for yourself. After all, every minute or hour you spend playing this game is happy hour. Number 7, Stellar Blade. I remember back when this game was first revealed and announced as Project Eve, it gave me some serious Bayonetta vibes, so naturally piqued my interest. Aside from all the obvious fan service that's impossible not to mention, I'd say this game is well deserving of all the hype and praise it has received. From its very challenging yet addictively fun hack and slash gameplay, to its absolutely breathtaking visuals and world design, to its interesting, attractive, badass, and memorable characters, what's not to love about this game? I think we can all agree that Stellar Blade definitely got robbed at the Game Awards, considering that even Nier Automata's creator admitted he was jealous of this game, and I'd say it very well shows and speaks for itself. Speaking of which, the only thing that makes this game more awesome than it already is the Nier Automata crossover DLC. However, this isn't the only game that got some awesome 2B crossover skins this year, which leads me to number 6, Foam Stars! Alright, now before everybody rips me apart or crucifies me for putting this above Stellar Blade, just hear me out. The best I can sum up Foam Stars is, it's essentially a near-perfect Splatoon alternative for PlayStation owners, and it's surprisingly one of the most fun games I've played this year. I have so much to say about this game that I can't fit it all into this video without doubling its length, and I've made a whole separate video all about it, so please go watch it if you'd like to learn more. By the way, the game is free to play on PS5 and PS4, and it doesn't require a PS Plus subscription, so it won't cost you a penny to go check it out. Not to mention, the final season, Party Goes On, is currently happening, and you have a chance to earn some sweet Nier 2B and 9S crossover skins by January 17th, so better hop on before it's too late. Whether if you're a Splatoon fan, or you never had a chance to experience Splatoon because you only had a PlayStation and no Nintendo Switch, or maybe you're just broke, either way, Foam Stars is definitely a game worth playing. Now, speaking of Splatoon, number 5, Splatoon 3 Side Order. The long-anticipated DLC expansion for Splatoon 3 has arrived, and it practically feels like a whole new game, as it actually uses a roguelike progression system. I'll admit I'm not really into roguelikes, so this did take me quite a bit of time to adapt to it, but it was still just as fun as Splatoon typically is. Fight waves of creepy monochromatic enemies, work your way up the Spire of Order Tower level by level, and earn all kinds of cool upgrades as well as unlock new weapons. Fair warning though, you will die a lot. In fact, you just might have to die over and over while farming color chips and membucks in order to farm up enough pearls to buy all the permanent upgrades until you finally beat the whole spire. It's challenging, no doubt, but definitely worth checking out to say the least. And the interactions between beloved characters Pearl, Marina, and Oct are just as fun to watch as the game itself. Honestly, why didn't this DLC get nominated at the Game Awards? I mean, apparently DLCs qualify for Game of the Year now, and in that case, I'd say Side Order deserved that nomination more than Shadow of the Erdtree. I probably just kicked up a shitstorm in the comments, didn't I? Number 4, Aero GPX. It's been over 21 years since F-Zero GX hit the scene, and fans have been waiting for a new F-Zero game since then. I'm still hoping we'll at least get a remaster of GX on the Switch successor console in the future, but for now, we've got the next best thing. Aero GPX is an F-Zero inspired high-speed hovercraft racing game that takes all the best elements from the classic F-Zero games and amps it up with its own unique elements and creative spin on it. Quite literally, the game's visual style is absolutely breathtaking, the controls are near perfectly smooth and handle the intensity of the tracks quite well, and it has all the addictive, adrenaline-rushing, high-speed challenge F-Zero fans have been craving for literal decades. You know, I think I'm starting to see a pattern here, where yet another talented indie game dev said, you know what, if Nintendo won't make a new F-Zero game, I'll make one myself and do it better. Because in my opinion, Aero GPX is every bit as good as F-Zero GX, if not arguably better, which is one hell of an achievement. You've really outdone yourself, Aron. Hard to believe this game is still in early access. Oh, and not to mention, just like F-Zero, the cool futuristic vehicles are piloted by a variety of cool, stylish characters. I think my favorite pilot is Linda Stratovale. She's got a pretty sweet design, like if Captain Falcon and Carmen Sandiego had a baby. Definitely want to see more of her in the future. Also, brief shout out to XF Extreme Formula. It's not quite as good as Aero GPX, but still a decent F-Zero alternative as well. Number 3. RZ, the Jewel of Faramore. Who would have thought that a nostalgic throwback to the infamous CDI Zelda games would turn out to be one of the greatest games of the whole year? Not me, that's for sure. I had the honor of playing this game a week early before release, and I've done a full review of it. I had a lot to say about it, so please go check out my RZ review video if you'd like to know more. Honestly, the fact that this game didn't get nominated for anything at the Game Awards is just blasphemy, as it's definitely a Game of the Year contender. Number 2. Doom, Legacy of Rust. Now I know some of you are probably thinking, wait, there was a new Doom game in 2024? Well, sort of. Earlier this year, we all got one hell of a surprise announcement out of nowhere that the OG classic Doom 1 and 2 would be getting a full HD remaster from Night Dive Studios, and everyone who already owned the original Doom 1 and 2 on any modern platforms would receive a free upgrades to Doom 1 and 2 Remastered, including a fully remade soundtrack, enhanced visuals and gameplay elements, and every official Doom DLC expansion ever made over the years, including the 2 new Sigil episodes made by John Romero himself in 2019. But best of all, it even includes a brand new Doom expansion episode made specifically for this remaster bundle known as Legacy of Rust. Who would have thought that a 30-year-old game would still be getting new DLC expansions to this day, and before GTA 6 or Half-Life 3? Anyway, Legacy of Rust is unlike anything we've ever seen from classic Doom before, and it's basically like a whole new Doom game on its own, as it contains 16 new levels that put all the past ones to shame, several new enemy types even more terrifying and intimidating, and 2 all-new weapons that make killing them even more fun. The Incinerator is a rapid-fire flamethrower that finally gives Archviles a taste of their own medicine, and the Calamity Blade is basically like the BFG on fiery steroids. Yeah, just when you thought one of the greatest classic FPS games couldn't possibly get any better, it just did. Legacy of Rust alone makes buying this bundle worth it, and once again, if you already own the original Doom 1 and 2 on either Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo Switch, then go download the free upgrade and play it ASAP. Now before we get to my number 1 pick, here's a huge handful of honorable mentions. Another Crab's Treasure, Bulletstorm VR, Dino Crisis Rebirth, Tomb Raider 1-3 Remastered, Star Wars Dark Forces Remaster, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, Yars Rising, System Critical 2, Exophobia, Marvel Rivals, Mince Hints, Bendy, Secrets of the Machine, Five Nights at Freddy's Into the Pit, Reverend, and Violet Wisteria, which came out on Steam last year, but I forgot to put it in honorable mentions. Plus, it just got ported to consoles earlier this year. Please go check it out. Yeah, you can see why I did a top 20 list, considering just how many good games I played this year. But out of this massive abundance of games, which one of them is the best of all? Well, I think we already know the answer. Number 1... Concord! Just kidding, it's Astrobot. Come on, we all knew it was obvious. What can I say about this game that hasn't already been said? Astrobot is one of the most addictively fun 3D platformers ever made in recent years, as it's essentially like Sony's answer to some of the greatest 3D Mario games like Sunshine, Galaxy, and Odyssey, as well as a giant love letter or tribute to PlayStation's entire legacy as a whole. Not to mention, this game was also kind of like my therapy while I was going through a brief period of anxiety attacks and depression, but I won't go into personal detail on that. Anyway, Astrobot is indeed every bit as good it has been hyped up to be. It deserves every ounce of praise it's received and more, and my words aren't enough to describe just how phenomenal it truly is. I can't recommend this game enough. If you own a PS5, please do yourself a favor and buy this game. You or your wallet won't regret it one bit. While not everyone may agree, I think this game is 100% deserving of having won Game of the Year, and all is right in the world. I look forward to your next adventure, Astro. So those were my personal top 20 favorite games of 2024. Oh, by the way, very recently, a good friend of mine gifted me Funko Fusion on Steam as a Christmas gift, but I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet, mainly cause the game's file size is so freaking huge that I don't know if I could free up enough storage space on my PC to download and play it, if I ever will. On an additional note, it's a shame that Shantae Advanced Risky Revolution had to be delayed till next year, cause that probably would have been my Game of the Year. Oh well, maybe next year.